Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. Our topic is lessons from building growth teams across multiple European markets. Much of this has to do with leadership, and much of it has to do with how a leader sees their role in an organization. So we're going to start with a quick bio about Lorenzo and about myself, and we're going to jump into the lessons of what has made him successful in leading Quanto. So Lorenzo, can you walk us through a bit about how did you grow up? How did that form your perspective, and what type of leader has that made you, today?
Thank you for the question. It's always, I don't love to talk about myself, but still, we don't have a lot of time, so I use that as an excuse to keep it short. No, but I was born in Sardinia, so a small island in the Mediterranean, from a family of traditional entrepreneurs in the construction business. So my father was an engineer, and so that was really the kind of environment that I grew up with, really building with your hands, building real things, real problems. Can you imagine in the mid-80s in Sardinia, already Italy very traditional, Sardinia even more, not that easy environment, especially when you are a small entrepreneur. So, I had a lot of experience and a lot of, memories from that time of how difficult it is to build, right? And because we're talking about growth, of course, a lot has changed into that. So after that, because of course it was a small island and I wanted, as many people do, to go back. Now it's to go away, and then now it's almost the opposite. Now you want to come back because of course you're looking for nature and quiet to some extent. So then I moved and I did my studies in Bologna and then in Milan. And right after that, I just jumped into the trend at the moment that was marketing, advertising, digital advertising. Google was just starting to really boom with Google Ads. Social media was just starting to become a thing. And I didn't really have a plan, to be honest. I just started to work for a company that I found pretty cool, which was a marketing agency. And just 6 months after starting and doing intern stuff, basically, my boss at the time asked me to go to the Netherlands to open a branch for the company, which was completely unhinged. I don't know why I did it. I guess he saw something in me, but it was not clear because, again, it was very early in my career. But of course, at that time, I didn't even think about it. I said yes immediately. I still remember the call. I just said right away, I'm going. So it was like also a bit taken away as, are you sure? Like, yes, yeah, I'm going. And so I do that. And it was a tough one because after I moved, I had a partner there that was waiting for me to start building this business together. Digital advertising with website development, which at the time, again, still a thing, since now we have Cloud Code, but it was a big thing, of course, back in the day. But this partner went under 2 months or 3 months after I arrived. So he called me and he said, you have to take your stuff because there's like a bailiff that is going to come here and seize everything that we have. So, so I was with 5 laptops in my hand, a printer on the other hand, went back home and looked for a way to stay there. So then I found another partner, and fast forward, it's been 5 years that I spent in there growing a marketing department, a digital marketing department in the Netherlands, big clients. We had all the big brands, so really, really cool. But then I decided it was a bit too much time in there, so I decided to move back to Italy. We started a new project, also in digital advertising, but this time was AdTech, MarTech, so technology to sell advertising at scale for small and medium businesses. And the project took off super well. So after 2 years of international expansion, I moved to the US, and so that was my second time, building businesses from scratch. I moved to Los Angeles and I started the US branch of the business. After 2 years of doing that, the opportunity with Uber came along. And for as much as I loved to be in California, to be honest, because it was a good time for me and also the right time in my life, it was also, honestly, too good of an opportunity to pass. Professionally, after you build for such small companies with zero budget, zero plan, a lot of ambition, but also a lot of difficulties and away from home, the possibility to then use some of the skills that you learned and the ambition in a large company that still didn't really make it because Uber at the time in Italy was struggling, was too good to pass. So I decided to move back, and I did Uber for 6 years as the general manager for the mobility business in Italy. Amazing, of course, growth opportunity and path, and amazing growth in the country. We built the business. We grew the business about 10x. So it became a pretty big thing. A lot of different things, compliance, communications that I didn't really do a lot before, lobbying. So really, really helped to grow also for me professionally my profile. And that is when it was the right time, I think, to take the step in Conto. So it's been now 9 months. And I took responsibility for 3 markets, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. And enjoying a lot ever since. And of course, because the session is about building growth teams across multiple European markets. Of course, in Italy, in Uber, I only had Italy, but then, of course, I grew businesses a bit across the world. So it's good to put everything together now in Conto with 3 markets that have a strong ambition.
But as I listen to your story, it seems like what I think a lot of people miss is that there's all these like successes and failures and challenges you have along the way, which end up making you into the leader you are today, which allows you to actually take on a region and grow it. You grew up in an entrepreneurial family, you had a bunch of setbacks and failures. You saw with Amsterdam, you stepped out of your comfort zone and went to the US and went to Amsterdam as well, and then came back to Italy, and now you're handling a region. So as you began to put your mark on the leadership of growing this region of Italy, France, and Spain for Quanto, I think a lot of this has to do with the way you sort of forged your career forward. What are some of the lessons you use as a North Star today to drive the growth of this region, and how do you make sure that what you're doing is really going to one North Star that can help the company grow, but then is like somewhat localized to the local countries? So can you comment about that?
Yes, indeed, there's a lot of touch points, I think, but the first thing that comes to mind is really how to build motivated teams cross-market, right? And to me, the first distinction to make that is, a local presence doesn't mean a local team, right? Obviously, and this I almost say this against my benefit, right? Because obviously, as a managing director for multiple countries, you want local teams, but you also have to make sure that the whole organization works well with you. And a lot of that has to do with the kind of story that you build around your countries and the conviction that people have at a broad company level about the country and about the ambition of that country. There is no way you can succeed with only your local team, because by definition, especially large tech companies, fintech companies tend to centralize, and they rightfully do so. So building that story means, in my role, but also, of course, in the role of the team that works with me locally, repeat, sometimes ad nauseam, because it feels like too much, many times the story, because it's never too much, because people pay little attention, central teams have a lot to do, and so to make sure that really you have a team that is truly a local team, but an extended team that works both centrally and locally, you have to sell this story very, very well. And that is not an easy task, and it's something that takes time. You need to oversimplify, repeat a lot, and so on. So that is, to me, honestly, a big, big point.
Sounds like you have like 3 pieces. You have a strategy for the region, you have synergies between the different countries, and you have a common story that has to tie everything together.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right.
This is part of your job to set this down so that you can lead and unlock the growth of this region for Quanto.
That's right, that's right. And again, for me, having led businesses outside of Italy, which is not my home country, and having to build businesses there, I missed that a lot. I made a lot of those mistakes of not understanding the local context, right? I was young, you hear this at university, they tell you about, local, nuances, and I didn't really get it until you get there and you really understand how people think. And now when you are in the opposite position, you have to get people to buy into the story of a single country and their challenges. It's not easy. One thing that I often do is, and it's kind of a cheat sheet, I guess, it's when you ask people and you make it personal for people, they really get it. No, if you tell somebody, if I ask you, are you similar culturally to not even the neighboring country, but somebody from a neighboring region? 95% of the times people will say, no, I mean, we are different, right? We have different stories and different. So when you make it personal to people, that is when they normally understand. And this is where you really try to get people's attention to understand, okay, things work differently in every country.
Sounds like you have 2 customers. You have the external customer of the startups you're serving from Quanto and its products and services, and then you have another customer, which are the internal employees, to make sure that they feel empowered and committed to actually growing their organization and putting their best forward. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And what we try to do at Quanto is we try to converge those 2. We say it's built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, because it's really the story of the company. The 2 founders built their own startup, and they found the banking for SMEs to be absolutely not at the right level, and therefore they founded Conto, which is a really cool story. And this is what we try to do every day, when we all work with that entrepreneurial spirit to try to understand where our customers are. Obviously, Conto today is not an SME anymore. We serve SME customers, we're not an SME anymore, but we try to think with that logic. So again, it's about understanding those local nuances, getting things to get in love with what the country does. That works for a lot of things, of course, not for everything. We are still, financial institution, which means that we have to do compliance. Compliance is not one of those things that you can just get people in love with, because you need to be absolutely there. They cannot say,
there's no winging it. There's just not making it up as you go along. You have to follow the regulations and follow the rules within each country.
Correct. So that is really a different play. But also there, I think companies, especially when they grow in a very fast environment and a very fast pace, as Conto did, you can make mistakes, right? And again, also the job of local markets and local leaders is to really surface where those problems are. It's not easy because some things are very, very local. You have certain types of systems that only work in Italy, for example, when it comes to the way we do compliance. And as a central team, of course, maybe they don't see that as important as other things because it's only one local one. And so in some cases, there is also about making that hard trade-off and saying, okay, we need to localize this one. I need to bring this into my country. And we're doing that, for example, for one thing in one of my markets in Italy now, because indeed there is no way you can just get or hope that people are forced, are inclined to do that. It needs to be there, right?
Wow, I'm glad I don't have your job. I'm quite an international person. My parents immigrated from India to the US, and I'm born in the US, and then I went to school in France. And I've lived in 6 countries and been in 36 countries, and had the chance to be in the center of Silicon Valley and see how it works. But it sounds like making all this work in this region, and you were telling me earlier that France, Spain, and Italy represents 50% of TAM right now for Quanto. So this is kind of a make it or break it region, right? So everything's resting on your shoulders.
Yeah.
What do you do? What are the things that you've learned the hard way about how to make this successful and how to make sure that this grows and you folks continue to dominate in your space?
It's Italy, Spain, and Portugal. Those are the 3 countries, not
Italy,
not
Spain, and Portugal.
Yeah,
sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Sorry, I was in France.
Don't worry
2 days
about
ago.
it.
Sorry.
It's yes. True. It's a big portion of our markets. About indeed 50% of our total addressable market, which is a lot. And this is also why, honestly, I like the challenge, because these are 3 countries that they are in 3 different stages of maturity, but they have one thing in common, which is enormous growth potential. Conto is, it is not a secret, very big and very strong in France. We are growing very well in other countries, but of course we don't have that magnitude. So the path of becoming a verb, as we used to say in Uber terms, that is really when you make it, it means that people talk about you in that way, which is almost the case in France, of course, in the startup environment, is really what we want to get in other markets. Not easy indeed, but again, I think the company is now growing, and this is also the job of myself and other local leaders into that conviction that if we really want to be successful at the European level, that is the next step for us.
So is it that Quanto is focused on SMEs, or is it focused on startups, or is it focused on both?
It's SMEs in general, right?
It's SMEs in general.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's say that if you look at it in an evolution, a natural evolution, of course, as a fintech, you have a very good mode with startups. Startups understand, and they want something new by definition because they are startups. And so this is where we are very, very successful today.
Sure.
I think when you look at the future, of course, innovation is not something that stops at startups. There are probably somebody in the south of Italy that makes shoes manually using AI right now.
I think I met him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is where I think it's the big opportunity for us is to grow into that segment. The more traditional segment, which is in Europe, is still an incredibly and the majority of the market, and where I think innovation still has to catch up probably.
Yeah, I was in Italy 2 years ago for for a conference there, and I saw that Italy has a lot of artisanal founders that are really creative and very good at what they're doing. But then there was kind of a lack of tools to be able to help people scale what they were doing. It sounds like you're sort of the partner for the SMEs. You're sort of the partner to help them manage their business better and help them unlock their growth. Is that the right way to view it or not?
Yes, absolutely. So what we want to do is make sure that all that burden when it comes to financial management, banking, reconciliating invoices and so on is taken off the shoulders of the SMEs so they can focus on what they do best. And again, because they are in Italy, likewise in Spain, in Portugal, they are really, really good at their craft, they should fully focus on that. And again, I come back to my personal story, and I'm sure many people can relate. As an entrepreneur, you spend a lot of time, we used to spend a lot of time in line at the bank, in writing invoices, in all things that are actually have little to do with your business. And honestly, you don't need to do that. So
Take
that
away from running your business, actually, right? So you're offloading all that. Is that your booth over there in the corner, the one inside, the big white one that's in the corner over there? Okay,
correct.
Just wanted to shout out a bit for you guys. So one last topic, and then we'll go
shout out is for the team that built it.
Yeah, well, for the team, and I mean, yeah, for the team as a whole. But one last point I wanted to bring up from our prep earlier was, can you mention about trust, and then we'll have a quick ask for the audience as well. Yeah, can you talk about trust? How do you build trust at a scale as you're working across different regions where people have different values and different ideas about how trust is built? How do you manage that?
I think you touch on probably the biggest challenge, if you look at it strategically, that we as a company have, that many companies have, but especially in our environment. You are asking essentially people to put their money and their operating system, financial operating system, and to trust you with that, right, as a bank. Clearly, this is not something that happens automatically, because how many people are just not. I mean, I don't know those guys; they are new. So building that trust is absolutely essential. But a big lesson that I learned in Uber is that, I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but I also saw with my own eyes for 6 years. You take years and years and years to build trust, and you take honestly minutes to destroy it. This is a story that I saw at Uber in many. That we saw in many countries, and it was true in Italy too, and we spent a lot of time, and it was incredibly painful to do that. Some things that we're doing in that direction to make sure that people really start trusting fintechs as they should is also working in more traditional steps. We are, for example, now applying and in the process of becoming formally a bank. So in Italy, or in Europe, you have a payment institution or a credit institution license. The difference is that with a credit institution license, you have a full, let's say, banking license where you can do more things. You can do credit and things like that. So this is a big part for us of building trust, but it doesn't stop there. You mentioned the booth. This is another very important thing for us. Symbolically, as a way to say, we are here, right? We are here. You can touch the product. You can test it. You can see the cards. These are all things that for us are important, not to say we just pick a product, we translate it, and we throw it in a market. No, we are here, we have a team. I'm here on the ground with people that are actually here to understand what the customers need, and really get them what...
So just to close up, I think both you and I are here to support the startup ecosystem that South Summit has done a great job of bringing together. From our conversation, I remember that you wanted to connect with ecosystem and partnership folks. That's the way you want to support the startup ecosystem. Myself, I want to connect with investors and founders that are here. Advise 300 startups in the Silicon Valley, and I have connections with 900 investors in the Valley. So this is how we'd like to serve, the South Summit ecosystem in terms of our connectivity and our sort of goals and our values. So listen, we're done early, 19 seconds early. All right, thank you, folks.